Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're looking at Wednesday night best bets here for you guys on another 2-game slate in the NBA. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We've also got our play props up there for you guys. You can check that video out as well and continue to follow along throughout these playoffs. Also head to the site we have there for you guys with all the great written content up on thelines.com. Continue to follow along with all the picks we're putting up there. And you can use the odds finder tool that we have up there, a nice little chart to see all the offerings from these sports books. Make sure you're getting the best odds available to you and all these bets that you are making in the NBA this postseason. Nate, let's run right into your first best bet here. I know we usually like to talk about how we did recently, but basically for May the 9th, we're recording this right now to get ahead of these videos. So once again, we'd rather just get right into stuff here for you guys and move on to your first bet here, Nate.
Well, you could pat yourself on the back for hitting the parlays in that Knicks game. I guess you just didn't want to talk about it again, but yeah, we both hit parlays for the Heat to win, or I had the Heat winning. Josh had just Jalen 20, Jimmy 20, and then 8 rebounds for Bam and Julius. So those hit. Steph was the top scorer in that Warriors game, although the Warriors choked down the stretch. So we were talking about a 3-1 night on Monday. Looking at Wednesday here, I mean, the Heat, I'm just surprised to see them at plus 3.5 here. So what I'm going to do is kind of flip that line and say Heat minus 2.5, give me plus 165. I mean, it's still like plus 140 just straight up on the money line. But if they win, I don't think it's necessarily going to be on a last shot or be that close, because the Knicks, I mean, it's demoralizing what's happening to them. I could, even with the crowd at their back, just getting bullied by a team that just will not be moved, as everybody says, like it's just an immovable object, Jimmy Butler. It's got, at some point you'd think they might let go of the rope. And the reason I've been off the Knicks this whole series because they have a clunky offense with 3 guys who can get their own bucket, but they don't produce for each other. They're averaging 18 assists to 14.5 turnovers in the series, and that's just not going to get it done. They're shooting 28% from deep, just like allowing the Heat to pack the paint. It's really exactly what we were saying in Game 4. I mean, the change in venue is something, but like I don't feel like the Heat have even gotten the best of Jimmy Butler yet in terms of since he came back from his ankle injury. Like he's just been like getting by, like 29% usage, 27.5 points per game. That's 10 points per game fewer than he had to drop to dispatch Milwaukee in 5. And, we saw what happened in Game 5 with just, even with the Heat looking like, before that game, I remember, Josh, we were like, well, don't they just want to go back to Miami and try to close it out there? They smelled a little blood, and then they doubled up the Bucks in the fourth quarter to win it in overtime. So it's just like, if they can pull that kind of effort out, and you're probably talking about a Knicks team that they could be leading wire to wire against, because they have in most of these last few games. I trust Miami to win. We talked about some of the numbers in terms of them not allowing free throws and the Knicks depending on free throws. The Knicks, depending on paint points, Miami not allowing much of that either. And so even when they're losing the rebounding battle, they're just so much more efficient offensively that they're able to actually score, unlike what the Knicks got into with their first round series. So I think you're looking at historically, Miami's 14-0 and they have a 3-1 lead now. They close it out. The Knicks are 0-14 when they're down 3-1. I'm not sure if that's for the entire series or it's just literally that game, but I think in this situation, I think Miami's going to be able to close it out. And even if they don't, like I'll still take my odds here at plus 165 for them to do that based on what I've seen.
Yeah, it's a quick reminder PSA that if you pick a team to win a series and you feel confident in it, then you should probably pick their money line as well pretty consistently. And especially when it's at plus money for the team that you chose to win the series already. Like I know we both already did and talked about that when it was like minus 110 for the Heat at one point, minus 120 for the Heat was still very worth it. Especially after we saw the Knicks win and we go, oh, you guys needed to do that, barely scraping by without Jimmy Butler. Like, what do you think is going to happen when Jimmy comes back? And we've seen it. And like, just as soon as Jimmy hit his first three in the last game, in game 4, and came down the court doing this, like pointing at the ground, I was like, oh, okay, all right, got it. Like, that's what it is. That's what this series is, and that's what it'll continue to be. So I agree with you and everything that you're saying here about the Heat winning and why. One point that I have is also talking about Julius Randle, just on offense and defense, man. Like, he's not him, I guess is what the saying goes these days. He's not it. Like, on offense, the I hang on guys, I got this moment is just sends, my makes my blood cold. I know that it's not going to go well, and sometimes it will, and he'll hit a shot that's fallen away from 25 feet and it'll go in, and at the end of the shot clock, because he just spent 8 seconds jab stepping before he actually made a move, so now we have to rush a shot at the end of the shot clock. That is vintage Julius Randle right now. Also reminds you of Carmelo in a bad way, and like, but when he hits it, it's like, oh, so is that the shot you're going to keep taking? And to your point about clunky offense, like, this offense is not just relying on those two guys dominating. If you look at the way that this team played out throughout the regular season, RJ Barrett averaging 20, and I know he had a decent game last time, but also you had Emmanuel Quickley that would randomly give you 20. You had Quentin Grimes that was available to hit open threes, and good to see him back. But there's a lot of guys that are able to guard him in this series, including Max Strus, who did a fine job last game guarding him. So like, all of this is to say, like, if they win this game, fine, but like, this is where I think we can like take the safest bet, which is them to win, like you're talking about, and maybe add some fun stuff on there to it. Just like, don't get irresponsible here, but like, maybe you want to throw 0.1 units or a fifth of a unit onto some of these bets. So Miami to be losing at the half, so Knicks winning at the half, but Miami wins the game, that's plus 600. We've seen that plenty of times, including game 5 of the Bucks series for this team when they came back and stomped them. We saw it in game 1 of this series when they came back after the Knicks were up pretty big in the first half, double digits in the third quarter. I would also say, if you want another 6-1 on your money there, Jimmy to get 35 and close this thing out like the killer that he's been in these types of games, plus 600. That's a lot of points. Even if you just take him up to plus 300, if you take him to 30 plus points and you add the Miami win there, you're still looking at like plus 315 for Jimmy, plus 285 in that area, depending on the book you look at. And then the last thing I would say is Miami to win the fourth quarter. Like, all this stuff adds up to Miami's going to win the fourth quarter. If they're going to win this game and you think the Knicks might bring it a little bit in the first half and ride the wave of MSG, maybe Jalen's hot early, maybe a couple guys hit a few threes, like in the terms of Julius Randle and even RJ, fine. Like, maybe that happens, but like, do you believe in this Knicks team to sustain offense through 4 quarters? I don't. And the only way that this bet doesn't really hit, in my opinion, is if the Heat are already winning this game in a way that they don't care about it. And it could go the other way, but I do think that the Heat are going to come out and try to stop them. Like, nothing's about the way they've played these playoffs has led me to believe they're taking any games off. Like, they kind of took game 2 off and they still almost won it, leading most of the way until the very end against this team. So I'm just not a believer in the Knicks offense without a guy like Emmanuel Quickley being effective, who was doubtful and missed the last game and might not be available for this one. But even if he is, what makes you believe that he's going to come in and change everything around from the way he's been playing in the playoffs this year? I don't have that confidence yet. So I do believe, like, the Heat, others have hit threes at a rate that I'm like, all right, this is just what you're going to do in the playoffs. I'm not going to bet against that. And we'll see how they might come out in a series against the Celtics or whomever in the next one as I look ahead to that. But like, for now, against this Knicks team, they don't have the answers.
Yeah, we should remember that the Knicks were like 5 games below 500 against winning teams for most of the season. They couldn't handle the big dogs in the East until like until we got to the dog days of the season. And then all of a sudden they're going on a run. They're winning games. It was kind of fool's gold to think like, oh man, the Knicks might be a contender. Look, like, they beat the Bucks, they beat the Celtics twice. I mean, that's exactly the type of the pause in the season that where, sure, Miami was below 500 against winning teams too, but they're pacing themselves. They're veterans, right? They're playoff. They have playoff experience, and that doesn't necessarily mean they can't handle these moments. This group has been through it, and they know how to close out in those situations.
And they have Jimmy Butler.
Speaking of veterans, I mean, the other game here, with LeBron versus Steph, and we are going under on the Lakers to score 55.5 points in the first half. And what I'm banking on to a degree here is some regression. The first 2 games in Golden State, to open the series were just crazy in the first half. So I wish you could get this total a little higher. But I don't, I think with the Lakers traveling right now, and to try to get the win and get back to LA, I just expect them to come out a little bit slower. The energy they had to expend in Game 4 to get that win, and they were only down. They were down 52-49 at the half in that game. The one concern here, I guess, is that the Warriors play very, very fast at the Chase Center, like a 105 pace. But actually, that's slower than the Lakers were playing against, in the first half of the playoffs against Memphis. And they definitely went below this total plenty of times against that. Look, usually we're talking about the Lakers slowing down in the second half and not completing the mission because they're old and they get fatigued. But in this instance, I think the Warriors come out with renewed focus on both ends of the floor. They play good defense at home, especially in these playoffs, 107 rating. And 45 paint points per game is good. 13 points off turnovers, which is 3 fewer than they allow on the road. Still not great, but it's limiting that at least. And the Lakers' half-court offense is not that great unless AD is being super aggressive. But what does AD do in not must-win situations, or like after they get a big win? Well, Game 2 in the first half at Chase, he had 4 points. He went 2 for 7 because he was just tired from what he did the previous time, right? So the Lakers still got to 56 in Game 2 because they shot 8 for 17 from 3, including Bron kind of having a few luck box threes there that we talked about. I don't expect that to sustain. They're not usually a good 3-point shooting team. And you just look at by the numbers how they scored in those first 2 games. At Chase, 20% of their points came on the mid-range. Like, that's not something you can bank on necessarily in today's NBA. Those shots are not high efficiency. Just 40% of paint points, just 6% of points off turnovers, which is how you get the Warriors. And 100% of their threes were assisted, which indicates to me that, like, this is just discipline from the Warriors, just understanding the defensive game plan. Draymond's going to be in their ear, right? I do think they can come out, and as we see these series progress, they'll play a little bit slower and a little bit just stronger on the defensive end, and probably be leading at half and keeping the Lakers under this total.
I'm gonna be trying to, that's for sure. The thing about the Warriors is are they going to turn the ball over 17 times, or 12 in the first half? They had 10, or I think they might have had 12 in the first half of this last game. I know they had 10 at one point in the second quarter. So like that would be the only thing to me, is like if you're going to let them get out and run. But it seems like we're getting to that point finally where, like, even if you want to play fast, it's going to get ugly at this point. Like the offensive and defensive ratings for these two teams, the last two on the road for the Warriors, like they still didn't have that bad of a defensive rating. I mean, last game it was like 106, because a lot of it is because of just bricks coming from the Lakers, who you saw increase their efficiency because Lonnie Walker's hitting shots in Game 4. And maybe we should stop making fun of those scenarios. That happens, and it happens because Lonnie Walker is fresh legs just as much as anything at this point. And so it's not, when we talk about guys showing up that maybe were a little bit unexpected, that shouldn't surprise us, not just because it happens every playoffs, but it happens for a reason. It happens because these guys are coming in with fresh legs. You see, like, even Gary Payton looking really spry in that game because him getting the start, not playing that many minutes, especially down the stretch for in the regular season as well. So I'm good with them going under. I say all that to still say, like, you can expect this game to be a little bit lower scoring, and rather than actually worry about the first half, I'm just going to talk about the second half and the fourth quarter specifically, and talk about my last bet there for this video, Nate, which is under 55.5 points for that quarter as a whole. And that's minus 115 on DraftKings. And I feel really good about that. One, it's actually way better on DraftKings than other places you'll find, including FanDuel, where it's under 54.5 and minus 113, which I think is a little bit sharper than the 55.5 that we've got here, because this series has been played at a 90 pace in the fourth quarter on average at this point. And that includes a fourth quarter in Game 3 where the pace was played at 101 because it was all subs that were in at that point. The Lakers had that game handled and were up by about 21, a few minutes into the fourth quarter. And then we got to see, all the subs come in for both sides and do with that what you will. But when you've still got the starters in the fourth quarter of this series, it's averaged about 27-21 in terms of favor of the Lakers. Once again, that's with an 11-point lead with nobody on the starting unit playing for either side. So it's even actually a bit lower than 27-21 in the fourth quarter right now, if you would believe me. It's about 49 points in total with that big 70-point fourth quarter that I keep bringing up as an anomaly that's messing up all these stats. But the other three quarters playing way faster. You're talking about 100 pace in the first, 106 in the second, when they both really come alive, and LeBron seems to kind of like do his thing more than anything and take control of the style of play. And then in the third quarter, they both come out a bit of rest in the half, 101 pace. And, they're averaging 54 in the first, 60 in the second, 52 in the third. And then, like I said, we're down to about 48 in the fourth. And once again, that is ruined by a larger quarter. So with all that said, like I think we are at the point in the playoffs where things are going to slow down a bit, just based on the fact that like these guys look tired. The Knicks look exhausted. Both of these two teams that we're talking about in the West, the series that we're talking about right now for Wednesday night, they both look exhausted as well. And you look at everybody playing 40 plus minutes for these teams. And I don't think Steph or these guys can afford to come out. Those non-Steph minutes right now are bad for the Warriors.
I got to give Josh his flowers here. This is a better pick than my second pick, and I 100%, I'm on board with this. I think it's a better way to play this game. You look at like live betting the under, which I've been looking at all series for these two teams, like starting with game one where they went crazy in the first half. I'm just like, it's going to slow down, and that's exactly how playoff basketball goes, especially when you have veterans out there who slow down intentionally and are more methodical with their possessions and make good adjustments defensively, which both teams are doing. The Lakers have such good defensive personnel, and the Warriors have, a coach on the floor in Draymond, and it's just slowed, and nobody but Steph is really getting it going. Like, we didn't even mention Jordan Poole being a 0-point show up in game four. The one concern is that the Warriors win this game in a blowout, and then they're just having fun in the fourth quarter. But if that's the situation, that the Lakers won't have their studs out there. So we'll see if it does dance around this total. But that's really solid research from the stats and info team to get that pace by quarter.
Yeah, I had my guys on it. They were sharp on that one for sure. So shout out to the squad, aka me, and just being a dork who peruses NBA stats for no reason sometimes. But also I would say, to the point you were making, like I am actually pretty nervous for the Dubs to be able to score in this game if I'm rooting for them, which I'm not. I'm saying for them. I would be nervous for them to score. The play that really showed me what the Lakers planned probably will continue to be is at the very end there, where they just were like, all right, Draymond, it's you one-on-one. We're literally face guarding every shooter on the floor right now. Do what you want. And he fumbled it out of bounds because he's like, wait, no, I'm supposed to pass it already. And you guys just let me run all the way to the baseline. And here I am with nowhere to go. And I think you continue to do that. You want to get the ball out of Steph's hands high up on the floor, give it to Draymond, and then just don't let anybody else get it back. That's not like Draymond, Kevon Looney, or Gary Payton. And I guess you continue to let JaMychal Green shoot if they're going to let him be out there and do that. But either way, I agree with your defensive in-game adjustments that are made that continue to really help these unders hit. So that is all the time we have for you in this Best Bets video, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along and check out the Play Up Props video we have up for you as well. Until we see you next, happy betting.